Welcome to Cross-Platform Podcast, where we discuss how to solve productivity problems across platforms. I'm Augusto Pinaud,
And I'm Mark Elwicks.
and today we are continuing talking from episode 103 about planning and issues and how can we solve. And as you may see from the background, we're having technology issues in my office as I move some stuff. I don't know why the Ethernet cable in the recording computer is not working. It will be something to be troubleshoot as soon as we finish. So I am in phone Wi-Fi as we talk, and I will then try to figure it out what happened with that.
I'm having similar issues on this side, but these happen to be Zoom, which we're using for these recordings, and it can't decide if it wants to do a full update, do a full reboot of the machine. So as we were talking about last week with troubleshooting, you go through all the basic troubleshooting steps, and if none of those resolve the issue, then it's a matter of just poking at things until something happens. So it looks like on both sides of the fence that we've got a bit of a challenge today, but we're going to work through it. We're going to make the best of the situation and just keep going from there.
Yep.
So you were mentioning some things in the pre-show that you wanted to talk about today.
So so we talked last week about the problems, and we all have them, and we all have things, and we talked on episode 102, I think, about me getting the Vision Pro and how that changed, and I play with the device. Yes, I've been using the device. There are certain things that I really, really enjoy doing in the device. So I begin troubleshooting how to include that into my working environment and how to use, because one of the things that is happening is I have had the story of the home office for me is a tragic story because I don't like home offices, and I have many iterations of one. And if my wife will listen to this episode, she will be commenting right now, expensive iteration of this. Okay, and
Okay.
part of this is because where I like to work is in the couch. Okay, that's my favorite place to work. Okay, the more couch you give me that I can lift my legs, the happier I am. So when I built this office, I built a part where the machines are with an office chair. And even my wife at that time told me, go and buy a fancy chair. So you don't complain about the chair very quick. I did, and I put this chair in the other corner for a reason. And what tended to happen is I work more on the other chair than on the office chair. So last week after a show, I was looking into this, and then I said, okay, why do I need to work in the office chair? Can I really move my setup so I don't ever need to work in the office chair?
So your primary chair now is your cushy chair? There you go.
Yes.
All right. All right.
So I spend a little bit of time moving things around. Um, one of the things is an office chair has wheels. So normally you put the stuff in front of you, but you can push the chair back to get out. These things don't have wheels. Okay, yes, you can put them wheels, but they don't. Okay, so they don't move. So that's part of it. You now need to find a way to exit front, okay, forward. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's because you cannot exit backwards. Okay, there is no way to move the chair, okay, or the desk. So it's been a fun interaction moving the screens so I can do these things and use the chair as the main office. So finally, yesterday, I moved. I finally moved the stuff where I wanted to be. And today, I have worked all day from the chair. I am part of the co-working space on Personal Productivity Club. That is a place where we share the screen time, people's working and connecting, and we just see Zoom. So that way, for the people who feel lonely, it's a great way to see other people. And I
Right.
was doing that, and um, I got the Vision Pros, and I was doing some stuff on the Vision Pros. And some of the people who know me for a while start texting me like, "Hey, somebody's in your office with weird goggles, and making fun of me." Um, but this is an interesting change. I've been on the chair. I put the stand-up desk. That's where this machine that I'm using right now is, and that has wheels, so I can push it and stand it if I want to. But
Hmm.
and then the other six screens are more towards the left and in a kind of weird angle. But um, let's see. Today is the first day. It worked. I was able to work most of the day in here, and I don't want to leave yet. So I'm going to take that as a win.
Well, and that change can often be inspiring in and of itself, just that variance in the environment. So, yeah, it'll be
Yes.
interesting to see how this works out for you over time. I used to have a high back, a matter of fact, if you look at like episode 50 of ours, I used to have a high back lazy boy style office chair that was very comfortable until it finally broke. It was probably 7 or 8 years old. Very comfortable, very nice. But when I replaced it with an Aeron style mesh chair that actually doesn't have a headrest or anything behind it, specifically to keep myself from getting too comfortable in the chair itself. It's comfortable to sit in all day and work in, but not to turn into a lounge chair. And I tried one of the gaming chairs for a little while. Any advice or the advice to anybody who's doing that, don't get a cheap one because the cheap ones are terrible, absolutely terrible. And this thing was horrendous. It's actually wound up sitting in my basement waiting to go on Marketplace. Um, it's the type of thing where finding a good chair can be a huge difference in your working environment and setting up and building around that. So that's good. I'm glad you've got a new approach to how you're settling in and that sort. I find
Yeah,
I
well,
have to be a little more upright.
as we have been discussing, there's a couple of projects that are coming, and well, some of them at least the beginning are going to require that I spend more time in here until at
Hmm.
least things get set up and all that. So that was important. And I was working anyways in the corner, everything. I say, wait, this is the chair I'm going to work. Let's move it and try to make it work. So if it's going to work or not, I don't know. There is some stuff is still to bring back, but it was
Hmm.
interesting the thinking process of this because you cannot see it from the camera, but there is a space between this chair and the credenza behind me. So I can
Hmm.
go and access the stuff without moving and rearranging the office every
Oh,
time
that's good.
I need to get something out of there. But that was part of the process. Okay, what you're going to do? What do I'm going to need now with the space on the front? Do I'm going to, do I move more stuff? I have an air conditioner unit. Okay, can I move
Hmm.
stuff, push it even more? So this chair is more in the center of the office than where it is. I don't know. That's part of the fun that is going to come in the next weeks. For now, it's a very simple um, approach. All the screens are semi-accessible. Um, and we will see.
Yeah, that's it's really important to make those kinds of adjustments every so often, even if for no other reason than to see if they make a difference. And if they don't, you go back to the way it was. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So that's good.
Yeah, the
So what
chair
else you
is
got going
still
on?
in that corner and will be there for a little bit until this gets aside. But I think there is a pretty decent chance that chair is not coming back to this place. I because what I discovered was the reason I decided to try this is I work in that chair if needed, but then
Hmm.
tend to gravitate to this chair most of the day. Then I was like, hey, why? Let's make it so I don't need to move that much.
Right. And that makes perfect sense. and that makes perfect sense. So how is it going with the Vision Pro goggles?
The Vision Pro do certain things incredibly well. Still needs maturity on some stuff, but
Hmm.
for example, I do a lot of writing. Okay, for work, I write books, write blogs, and also write for work. So
Hmm.
um, for writing is incredible. There are one is you could have a ton of screens. Okay.
Okay.
Second, you can block everything out. I don't know if I shared this on the past show, but on Sundays, my son goes to baseball and it's on a warehouse, but you cannot get in. So what
Hmm.
happens is you sit outside in the cold, wait. And the place that I tend to park, the sun hit on your face. It's what it is, whatever. You work like this and move, so the
Hmm.
sun is on an angle. Like every other parent has done with their laptop. Okay. The last 2 Sundays I have gone with the Vision Pro and I have blocked everything. And because you don't have really any light, you don't get. Yeah, you feel this heat, that you feel the sun hitting on your
Hmm.
face, but you don't feel the light bothering you as you work.
Just wait till you
Um,
have the giant goggle tan line. That's going to
it's
happen at
going to
some point
happen.
soon.
Yeah, yeah, you're going to end up being like that, and people say like you like, did you want to skiing this weekend? No, no, it's
There
just
you
the
go.
vision, bro. But that part is interesting. The spatial audio, I have not yet played enough to know if you can deactivate it for certain applications. But it is very interesting. I was working and my mother called and I had the Vision Pro and she called me via FaceTime. So I just, move and click the call, but I put the call towards my right. Okay. And even
Hmm.
that I had both headphones, her voice was only coming through the right side
Right.
because of the spatial audio. When you put music, you need to make sure that the music application it's on the center. It doesn't matter. You can put it up or down, but need to be on the center
Well,
because
that's interesting.
otherwise you get sound that is uneven. I don't know if you can deactivate it for certain apps or not. I haven't get there. I just got to move it to the center. But um, I'm going to say I'm really looking forward to a better weather day. Is too cold still,
Oh yeah.
where I can go outside and then look at a movie in the massive size.
There you
Um,
go.
that is interesting. Actually, we have a trip uh, sometime in April um, to Amish County in Pennsylvania, and I'm really looking forward to sitting outside of, on the hotel on Amish
Hmm.
County where you have, little noise, little light, little anything really, and then be able to expand to the largest possible. Um, when you expand it, it's very, very incredible. Like any other Apple product, the center when they launch is always entertainment. So
Hmm.
they have the music store, the app store, the movie stores, but from the writing perspective, it's very interesting. I love the fact that I can have two or three things open plus reference. um, I read on the Kindle more than on Apple iBooks, so I have really not tried reading. I
Hmm.
have a couple of books that I have get, and after I got them in Kindle, it's like, oh, I should have got them in Apple iBooks, but I haven't thought about it. So, and there is no Kindle app yet.
Hmm.
You can do it on the browser, not the same.
Yeah,
Browser,
it's definitely not.
not the same. So that's one thing that I still want to play more. But um, today, as I was saying, the people in the co-working space were making fun of me. Okay, but I have here as I'm sitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screens. Okay,
Hmm.
and what people don't know because they can't is at that particular time as the fun was coming, I have one screen that was open for the co-working space, okay, two screens or three screens that I was working on, and then I was working on the Apple Vision, and I have Telegram open and four other screens. So at some point, I had 13 screens in front of me. And as a friend of mine texted me from this, I said, I finally accomplished what Palpatine felt in all the Star Wars movie, okay? Unlimited power. This is just the screens, but
There
it
you go.
feels like you have unlimited screens now with the Vision Pro.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's nice to get to that level of feeling like you're in control of everything.
it is that is interesting. The number of screens, the size of the screens. I was doing a job in Excel. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
nothing particular other than I was working on Excel. And then I open Excel on the Mac and then connect the Mac to the Vision Pro and then move
Okay.
the Excel. Okay. I don't know how big was that screen. I don't know. Okay. But it's the first time ever that I look at a spreadsheet. I was looking at servers. Okay. So there
Mm-hmm.
was lines of lines of lines of this spreadsheet. It's the first time that I can open that thing and say, oh yeah, this is more information than what I can digest in one. Okay,
There you
because
go.
really you could not see it. The screen was so big that it was more than the field of vision. I needed to do little, not a lot, but little
Oh
left and
yeah,
little
okay.
right to get to the border. So for people who need to work and do certain works, when the size of the screen really makes a difference, okay,
Right.
those kind of things are really beautiful. I open as I was doing some planning, I did a mind map. Okay,
Okay.
it was awesome.
Oh,
I
I'm
mean,
sure.
it, it was incredible seeing that massive, massive mind map in front of you. So, um, it doesn't work for everything. Um, I think over time we will find things that work better
Mm-hmm.
on it. But it reminded me to the iPad. When the iPad came, okay, it replaced 90% of what I do on the MacBook at the time.
Okay.
Okay, today it replaced a lot more, but at that time it replaced 90% of what I do on the MacBook, and that was
All right.
plenty for me not to carry the computers, just
Mm-hmm.
carry the iPads. I will say right now the Vision Pro replaced around a 50%.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
that is pretty significant. I go
Yeah.
home from the office and I carry the Vision Pro and the iPad Mini. Not because I'm going to work on the iPad Mini. I don't even bring the keyboard for the iPad Mini. It's just because I read on the iPad Mini.
Okay.
Um, so those are the devices I carry. If I'm going to work, I work on the Vision Pro. If I'm going to read, then the iPad Mini is the device of choice for me.
Mm-hmm.
For people who do research, I mean, it is you can you can do the you can do tabs or you can do individual windows with the research you're reading. You can open different papers, different documents, and have them all, surrounding you, and then the text in the
Mm-hmm.
center that you're typing. It is very awesome. I have not yet. I'm not very good yet taking screenshots of stuff and putting them in there. I don't know if it's user competent or Vision Pro capabilities. I don't know the answer of that at this point. Um, I went to a non-techie meeting the other day with the Vision Pro, and what was interesting was no one mentioned that about the persona. Okay, if I talk to a techie person, okay, everybody knows that I'm not. Okay, it looks
Yeah.
weird. Nobody mentioned that. That was quite interesting for me.
That is interesting. I'm
Yeah,
surprised that somebody didn't say something.
yeah. Nobody mentioned it. It was a work meeting and nobody mentioned.
Well, it is close enough. It's not like it's an avatar. And I guess that's really the biggest difference. I mean, if I were to turn on the avatar of me here on Zoom, it looks like a cartoon character. It's
Right.
designed to. The persona is designed to look like you. And anyone who looks at our previous episode, they'll see what that experience is like. So aside from it slightly feeling off, it's still you. It carries, and I think this is probably the thing that I noticed the most about it was it carries over things like when you talk and facial expressions, and those carry through. It's not that flat imagery of
No.
just a static camera off placeholder. So
Yeah, and
you
rumor
you can
says
get
that
a
the new
feel for that.
version, yeah, rumor says that the new version of the Vision Pro that is should be coming soon, it's already a release candidate, they improve significantly the persona. I haven't seen it, but they said they improved significantly.
Well, that's good. That's definitely a worthwhile improvement. And I think that's probably one of the biggest differentiating factors with that particular device is you need to be able to have that connected experience for other
Yeah.
people to not to not get that feeling that you are isolated. Um, to parallel it when you watch somebody using like the Meta goggles and playing games, nobody really cares if somebody's playing games. What they want to watch is they want to see that thing mirrored to a TV so they can
Mhm.
watch the game that they're playing at the same time. That's their connection and engagement into the system. So it's a
Well,
different thing.
and you can do that with the Vision Pro. I have done it with when I demo it to people so they can see what I'm seeing. And I did,
Hmm.
they were in another meeting, but they knew I was the Vision Pro. So I did a demo after that and I shared my vision, what I was seeing. And I, it is it is very cool from the other perspective because you can see the massive screens that I'm seeing. You can see
Hmm.
everything that I'm seeing. So it is very, very impressive when you do that.
That's cool. That's very cool.
So how is your Chromebook going for you?
Chromebook's doing great. I was using it today. There's still that classic back and forth between being a PC user and being a Chromebook user, especially since, and this is a bit of a weird thing that Microsoft announced, not directly related to the Chromebook, but related to Android, is that next year they are no longer going to support Android apps on Windows 11. They're going to depreciate the Android subsystem. And apparently it's because nobody's using it, which when I think about it, makes sense because nobody's using it on Windows. You're not really running Android apps on Windows. You could. The other problem I think too is that it never connected to the Google Play Store. It always connected to the Amazon Play Store. And the Amazon
Uh,
Play Store was often missing a lot of apps. So that was always a
yeah,
downside.
actually, my wife has a Kindle Fire, and I
Hmm.
installed the Google Store so she could get the applications that she
Exactly.
wanted.
You had that side load workaround so that you could actually get stuff loaded up. Yeah. So the device itself, I'll tell you, it is wickedly fast. I have yet to bog it down. I've tried. I have loaded, I think I had 68 tabs open at one point, and it didn't even bat an eye. Um, the keyboard does take a little bit of getting used to. And I think it's a keyboard issue, not so much the fact with that particular device, just with how Chromebooks are, because they put that lovely Chromebook key where most keyboards have their shift or their caps lock key. It's
Why?
right there.
Why?
I don't know why they decided to put it there. I much rather would have them put it down where like the Windows key is, just for consistency's sake. But
Yeah.
I find myself constantly banging against it every so often. So if that's the worst of the issues, I'll take it. I will say though, the Chromebook Plus webcam, the software updates they've put on it, because you can run, like right now, I'm running Chrome 122, I think is the beta version that's out. Um, the blur on the background, for example, for a webcam session is beautiful because it's all done on device. They don't do it out in the cloud, they do it local. So it's got some very nice features, very nice functionality. Battery lasts a long time. I've been getting on average about 8 hours of battery life with heavy duty use.
Oh, pretty
I have
good.
not, I have, yeah, and it recharges in no time. Absolutely no time. Charges up really quick. standard USB-C charging port, so I can just plug it right in. I actually changed my configuration here in my office a bit. I got a USB-C dock to hook all the peripherals to with power pass-through. So now I can take my Windows machine, use it, and then when I'm done with it, I can just shut it down, unplug one cable, put it away, drop the Chromebook in its place, and I'm off and running. So it's
Oh,
it's
good.
definitely much, and then the Chromebook synchronizes to the large monitor, so you get the good display outputs and all, and it is a 16:10 display, which is nice with that. But this week I discovered a couple of things. I had at the beginning of this week, I was actually on site for a customer for 2 days, doing some physical installation work for them for some things. And in prep for that, a lot of the things we talked about last time around planning really came to mind. You know, how do you make sure that you are prepared to do something? And this was not a situation where I had the latitude of starting something and realizing I didn't have all the things I needed and then could just go get them. This was 2 hours away from my office each way. So I needed to make sure that everything was with me. And I've got rolling toolboxes and things like that for all of this. But it was part of that prep planning that I realized that when we were talking about procedures and documenting procedures, that three-level process of having a mind map, having the flow charts, and having the checklists really came into play. Because before doing this for the 2 days on site, I did a mind map of what we were going to do, what needed to be accomplished on site. From that mind map, I did flow charts for each of the main parts of this
Okay.
exercise. And those flow charts then had built off of them checklists of the things necessary to be able to successfully execute the flows. That whole exercise, I think I only wound up with maybe 3 minor things that did not go with me the first day that I had to bring the second day. But that made that process so much easier. Now, I will admit, I spent a lot of time doing that. It wasn't just go grab your stuff, go and do something. There was a lot of prep and planning, but it also meant that the rework did not have to happen. There was not rework that had to be done. We didn't have to redo anything. We just did what we planned to do and were able to move forward. We had to make some minor adjustments, but that was neither here nor there. Now I'm on the other side of the equation. All that work's done. It's finished, it's working, customer's happy. Now I have to go through and document everything that we did in case we have to do it again. So now it becomes that exercise, taking the mind map and the flows and the checklists and expanding them to include all the things that we learned over the 2 days, plus be able to pull them out in outputs where they're useful. Where I was, there was no connectivity. So it's not where I could just pull up my laptop and see what was there. I have to be able to produce this. In this case, I'm going to have to be able to produce PDF outputs and actually
Right.
print them out, have physical copies to be able to take with me because of where I was with this kind of stuff. But that's where I think when we talked about this last week, and we're talking about this repeatedly, setting up your tools in your system to be able to not only help the pre-planning, but also the post-planning as you
Mhm.
tier up for the next exercise really says a lot about your tools. And when I look at the tools that I would normally use, aside from that 3 tier that I was talking about, task managers, yeah, that's fine, but it doesn't give me the structure. It doesn't give me the free form information that I need. That kind of is on the checklist part. But I really wasn't going to, for example, while I was doing these installations, I wasn't going to be running in and out of Todoist to update it. I'm not running in and out of Microsoft To Do to update it. That's a different kind of checklist. I need to be able to have this was a hands-on exercise. So you have to think about not only what is the information you want to track, but how do you have to put that information to use when you need to use it? What
Mhm.
is the most deliverable method? And we've touched on this in the past. Analog can be that better option. I mean, in everything that I was doing, the printed outputs were more reliable than anything else because I could, in this case, I was doing some installation under bleachers. So I would have to crawl under bleachers and all. And if I needed my checklist or something, I could take my pieces of paper with me and say, all right, this one. All right, we're good. Move on. I'm not dragging a laptop into those environments. So thinking about those exercises, that's part of where I had a good reinforcement based on last week's conversations around, how to tier out this process. And I actually wrote an article about this last week about that tiered methodology of mind map flow chart checklist. Um, the other thing that I realized though, and it didn't occur to me until I drove out and drove back, is how much people are going to hate me for this. I miss that commuting time. Now, let's be clear. I have no desire to work in an office. That's not a thing. Not a thing. But what I missed was that dead time to be able, in this case, that's when I
If you
listen to
want to pick and
audiobooks.
drop my kids to school every day, I'm
Nope.
happy,
Nope. 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 Just to be clear. What I missed though was that time period to be able to listen, in my case, to audiobooks. That's the only time I can listen to audiobooks is if I am not doing anything else cognitive.
Mhm.
If I'm doing something physical, mundane, that sort, yeah, no problem. I can do that. But if there's any cognitive involvement or parallel activity going on, I just lose track of the audiobook. And it can be very annoying and frustrating to me. That drive time out and back, in this case, 2 hours out, 2 hours back, I was able to work through a audiobook that I've been listening to and really enjoy it. And it made me think that maybe I need to find a way in my structure of the week to say, okay, I want time to listen to audiobooks. Therefore, I need to find the work that has to be done that is not cognitive work and chunk the two together. I mean, we've talked about in the past time blocking and that sort. Well, maybe the time block needs to be a listening and doing block or a listening and manipulating block, however I want to identify it. So where I have the audiobook going on and I'm doing something else physically mundane, like maybe filing or cleaning the office, which it really needs. Those kinds of things, that parallel works well. And that I've had that reinforced in the past because one of the biggest times that I will listen to audiobooks when I'm not in the car is when I'm out doing yard work. If I'm out raking leaves, man, audiobooks on. Listen to it the whole time. Why? Because there's no brain power involved in that exercise. So that mechanism is something that I think I might be able to use to reinforce both behaviors at the same time. Now, I know some people like to do audiobooks like on the treadmill and things like that. I've tried, I cannot get myself to do treadmill type of stuff. It just is what it is. Um, but I'm curious, when you plan out your activities, have you found activities or aspects of your environment that seem to have a natural mesh to each other that
So
you
let me
wouldn't
share
normally
this.
expect?
Let me share this. Okay,
Okay.
that's a mind map. Okay, and it's color coded because that's who I am. Okay, and it's printed. Okay, and I
Hmm.
print little things. Okay, I don't print really a lot, but it's exactly what you said. When I begin looking at this project, okay, I'm going to reform the office. Okay,
Hmm.
so this is the space I have. Okay, there are many things I want to do, and there are things that I want to work. As I said at the beginning of the show, okay, if I use this chair, I need to be able to exit my desktop, my workstation forward. Okay, we don't tend to think on those things because we always think we'll push the chair backwards. And actually, the first thing I did, okay, or one of the first things I did was went to Amazon and order wheels for this chair.
Hmm.
Okay. And then as I begin assembling the project into, okay, where the electronics need to be, how I'm going to manage the space, what are the things, because one of the things that in theory, when this office was designed initially, the idea of the office chair and this area for the computer is this was the working area, and this chair over there was the caveman uh, area. Okay, where I was going to sit and maybe enjoy a cigar or maybe, read. And the reality, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, is I always sit there. It's the only place I tend to sit, and I come to record a podcast into the other chair and complain that I don't have enough screen. So I tend to move things. And so the first question is, can I make this chair the main chair in the office? Okay.
Okay.
And it sounds silly when you ask the question or when you share the question, but the reality is, well, there are many factors. Okay. I spend a lot of times in phone calls. Okay. Do people are going to be okay that you are not sitting in a regular office chair? Okay. And again, the question is silly. Okay. But it is a question that comes. Okay. When I look at you and you share, okay, I haven't noticed it, but now that you mention it, okay, you say, hey, I changed my chair and the church that I bought doesn't have the top.
Yep.
Okay. I may haven't noticed it. Now that you mention it, it's like, okay, why did you put one who do not have it? Okay. And you give your reasons, okay? But all those questions come. Okay. Number one. Number two, what is the background that I want? Because right now you're seeing part of the credential, but this chair is lower. So you are going to see, if I move the camera, we're in the appropriate camera, you are going to see other things. Do I want you to see the credentials, the stuff that I have in there and the boxes and stuff? Yes or no? Or do I want to
Yeah.
give you the view of the bookshelves? What is, it sounds silly questions, but they are all important because at the end of the day, and this may be particular to me, I record a lot of videos. I do. So they are important what you look at the back. Okay, true. I can use a green screen, but then again, if I decide, okay, let's get a green screen now, that's another project. Okay, can I raise this chair? Yes, I can. But again, all these things are, you need to think, can I really, if I sit on this chair that doesn't swivel, that doesn't move, can I access all these machines? Because when you're in a thing with wheels and swivel, okay, you can extend yourself.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here, everything needs to be very compacted so I can make it. There is no
Yeah,
moving, no
definitely.
swiveling, no nothing. So all those elements were thought, okay, through my management over my map, okay, and I went into the colors. Okay, these are the things with the papers. Okay, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, there is a distance between this chair and the credenza. Why? Because that was the question. Okay, when I was on the chair, I can swivel around, open the drawer, close the drawer. Now that option is gone. If I
Right.
want to get a paper, I need to stand up, get there. But if I put this chair very close, then that means I need to rearrange the office before I can open that. So are details that you took time to think, okay? And then came with the mind map and said, okay, what I'm going to do is this. Now I have that space on the front of the office because my room, it's long, not wide, okay? That is going to be empty. Okay, do I want to get another chair like this to still make the man cave or not? It's all those questions are part of the planning. And what I found many times is we look at the initial problem, but
Yes.
don't think on the collaterals of all those problems. Okay. What is going to mean that I bring this chair in here? Okay. Well, now I have an open space in my office. Do I care for the space? Yes or no? The answer is technically irrelevant. Okay. But it's something that you need to solve. Okay. One of the things for me is, okay, if I settle this, how I'm going to be able to work with the Vision Pro? Can the Vision Pro be an option to work? Okay, I have multiple iPads. Can the multiple iPads can? Okay, and you can think or try to think on all those problems in the front end. That's the goal of that checklist and that mind map. Or
Mm-hmm.
you can wait into the back end. And are things that are going to come in the back end? Yes. Okay. It's inevitable. Okay. But how many do you want to have in the back end? And I think that's where this thinking process is important. The other thing are the colors. Okay. I I've been using colors for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I remember 20 years back. Okay. The first meeting, I show up with my Stadler color fine tip markers. Okay. And people were looking at me like I have three heads. And the thing is, for me, and I think for most people, thinking in colors help. Okay. Because
Sure.
you associate colors with other ideas. So when you start in blue, and then you bring orange, and then you bring green, okay? Immediately you start thinking about money. Green is a color that most people associate with money,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Your favorite color, you associate with comfort, okay? Doesn't matter what it is. So bringing those colors into the thinking helps. The other thing is changing how you're looking at the data, okay? And that is
Okay.
the reason databases are so popular, okay? It's not the data. It's how many different ways you can look at the data that is on a database based on the query. Okay? And the same thing happened in this thing. When I look at the same mind map, okay, in a big iPad, I look some information. When you put that thing now in a massive screen in the Vision Pro, it's different. And when you bring it to paper and you need to print four pieces because it doesn't fit, you will get different. And depending on the level of importance of the project, those four different perspectives will allow you to get a better answer towards the end.
No, I definitely agree with the color coding. It it gives you that fast mental cue. It's almost an involuntary filter that you can apply to things. As
Mhm.
if you've defined a color key and you know that, for example, if it's an issue that has to be resolved, it's going to be shown in red. If it's something that generates revenue, it's shown in green, whatever, however is applicable to that structure that you're creating. That color coding can be incredibly powerful in getting things streamlined and organized. It also provides a good segmentation of being able to identify. Now, I like color coding as well. I have a tendency to use it just to be able to provide separation for things
Mhm.
so that, because otherwise I do most of my things in dark mode on my machines, so that light colored text, dark mode background, color pops on a dark background. So it
Right.
makes it very easy to draw that cue out. Um, but I think we keep talking about mind mapping, but I think the key thing that people need to recognize with mind mapping is a conversation with yourself. It's a way to creatively visualize whatever you're trying to plan out or trying to understand, because it pushes everything in front of you to allow all of those things to then spawn new things. Like, how often when you're creating a mind map and you're working on one section, you'll glance at another and you're like, oh, wait, yeah, I need to make that note too on that thing. You get that cross pollination of ideas and activities, and that's how it grows organically.
Not only that, when you work on, at least on the app that I use, okay, you can switch from mind map representation to outline representation.
Yes.
Okay. And that allows you, again, it's a different view of the same data. The reason I
Hmm.
love mind map is because you are not constrained of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, but after you do the first mind map, it's very useful to go to the structure of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because then you say, oh geez, I forgot about these two things. Or okay, or as you said, you start looking at one section and say, hold on, but if we have this problem on this section, this is going to affect the other
Mm-hmm.
section, and you can solve that. And goes back to that. It's looking at the information, at the problem you're trying to solve from a different perspective. That is where meetings are great, when they're well defined. The reason well meetings, good meetings or good organized meetings are critical is because of the point of view of the
Mm-hmm.
different elements in that meeting. Requires planning, require organization, require that people come prepared. That's a challenge. But when you accomplish that trifecta, those meetings are magical.
Yeah. I have many a time used mind mapping for initial brainstorming and ideation sessions. And there's nothing more interesting, especially doing it over a virtual connection like this, um, to share a mind mapping application and you start from that central node as to what your topic is. And as you're conversing, adding those nodes in and letting it grow, and people are going, what the heck is this thing? And then when you're done, outputting that outline, explaining everything that you just captured and all the notes and the checklist, they look at it and go, where would how do I make this work? And you realize that once you've started to get into that exercise, other techniques can be very limiting. I mean, outlining, one of my favorite ways, can be very limiting if you're trying to have an open cognitive discussion with yourself about a
Right.
particular topic. I mean, you need that flexibility to be able to say, I'm thinking about this, but it's also over here too, and we might have to do this, and to literally let that stream of consciousness just flow. uh, Mind mapping is one of the best tools for it. Now, there's a lot of good apps that give you that extra functionality, like you were just talking about, being able to take the mind map and turn it into an outline. The one I use allows me to go through and on nodes say, is this node a to-do item? Is it a checklist item? Is it that type of thing? And then go through and say, give me an output just of the checklist items. Give me an output of the to-do items. Give me the outline of it. So I can take those structures and really build them. It's a little bit, I have yet to find one that does the flow chart part of it very well, because flow charting has its own weird nuances. Uh, but for the most part, a good mind mapping application that gives you those capabilities of task and checklist and outlining can be extremely powerful from your planning. Matter of fact, the one I use allows you to assign dates to it as well. So if you're doing a project plan, you can go that much further as well. So they're
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
tools absolutely worth using. I use this one. It's called Simple Mind Pro, specifically because it does cloud-based storage of the mind maps, and it has an Android app that works extremely well on the tablet. So I can work with my stylus on the tablet,
Mhm.
drawing out and moving around and creating nodes, save it, open it up on the Windows desktop, and have the exact same structures and be able to build
Yeah.
it from there. So that's really useful when we talk about that cross-platform capability. That's one of the big things that I look for out of it. All right. So any big things coming up this next week, or is a matter of
Well,
status quo?
it's a status quo right now. We need to finish the moving of the office. There's still some parts in here that have not been able to check the box, but it's part of the work for this weekend. Um, Really, that's the big thing. I start working on the book, but I was working already in the new book, and not yet ready to share a lot of it, but I will be sharing soon. Uh, about it, and hopefully we will be discussing it here in the show. I will. It's a little bit of luck. You will be open to read it, and then we will discuss it here in the show.
That'd be great. Yeah, I'm looking at content calendar layout and production for second quarter of this year. I need to get it together. I'm going to be doing some traveling at the very end of March, very beginning of April. So I need to have content queued up and already taken
Mhm.
care of, so I don't have to worry about it while I'm traveling. How to be able to make sure that I can do all the remote support issues that I need to. So there's a lot of planning that has to happen between now and the end of March, which is going to be life in a mind map, basically, building out all these structures that I need to. The other piece is writing. Uh, the articles are there. I've got to start generating more articles and more topics, and start pulling some of that content as well. So those are the big exercises right now, aside from all the normal work that has to go on.
Aside of the fun work that you will also need to do.
You got it. So, all right. I think we should wrap up this week and we'll queue up for next week.
Perfect. Well, with that, we get to the end of the show. Leave us a comment or like us and leave us a review. As we mentioned, we live in Personal Productivity Club. You can go there, interact. There is a bunch of things, bunch of articles, bunch of stuff that you can read, and more coming every day. But you want to interact, you have questions or anything, please feel free to join. It's free to join, and you can interact with us over there. And in the meantime, see you next week and next time on your favorite device. Thank you.